Hello, welcome to this webinar on the empowerment model, or should I say your empowerment model. It's your way of beginning to understand what's working in your life or what isn't. This has come about from a book I wrote, Midlife is Not a Crisis, Rediscover Your Drive and Reclaim Your Happiness. And that's available on Amazon now. And I was going to put this into the book, but I decided to keep it out and use it as a separate module all on of its own. So I hope you find this useful. And if you're here, the chances are things are not going quite as you would like. Maybe you're feeling stressed and have been for some time, finding that you're overwhelmed and it's all just getting too much for you. Maybe you are anxious about all the many different things that still have to be done from day to day to keep life going. Or maybe you've had a big life event of some sort, maybe a death or aging parents or redundancy, divorce, relationship breakup or ill health, some big event that has got you thinking about where you are and what you're doing, because life is way too short. Wherever you are, if you've had a big life event, it certainly brings that home to you louder than anything else can do. I know, I've been there. So my name is Kim Searle. I'm a midlife mentor, and that means that I do a number of different tools and techniques such as coaching, NLP, hypnotherapy, and some others to help my clients clear whatever's getting in their way, whatever's stopping them from moving forward, and helping them feel emotionally balanced and mentally calm. So what I'd like to do is move on to the initial part of this, just to explain a few things that's worth you understanding as we move through this slide deck. And one of the things you'll do from this webinar is you will understand how you are a product of your past. Everything you believe about yourself is fine, but there are some parts of it that are not true. And it's these things that are undermining you, getting in your way, stopping you from creating the life you want, or even living on better terms with the life you have. You are not yet master of your own destiny, but here I can give you the keys that will help you find it. You will begin to understand where you're getting in your own way. And then by the end, I will show you one technique that you can do to help you now. So the couple of things that I want you to understand is that there are loads of different ways of looking at this. So this is just one model. It doesn't make it right or wrong. But in my world, there is a conscious mind. That is the thing that is operational in the moment. The part of you that is aware of me talking to you, maybe aware of the picture, maybe aware of, something going on in the space that you're occupying right now. And then there is the unconscious mind. And it's here where I work, and many therapists, because it's here where the faulty programming starts. And I'll explain a bit more about that shortly. The unconscious mind is the part of you that keeps you safe, that looks after you, watches out for you 24/7, even when you're asleep. Have you ever woke up suddenly in the middle of the night and not understood why? Your unconscious mind has picked up on something small that you would not necessarily be aware of, that it's got alarmed at. So it has done what it does and wakes you up. It's also responsible for all your bodily functions: breathing, blinking, swallowing, reproducing, all that good stuff. It does all that. It makes sure that you are working at as optimal a state as it can do with what you're giving it. But it's also where we store all our experiences, our memories, our emotional content, our thoughts and behaviors, and even deeper than that, the rules that we have created about life. And these things are our model of the world. So some of you may be believing that there's never enough money, or you always get a cold, or you have something else going on regularly in your life. Like, there's never you never have any luck, that sort of thing. That's your model of the world. It's not true. It's just your experiences that you've been having time and time and time again, such that it can become a rule. And we're going to look at that on the next slide. So it's really important for you to understand that the conscious mind is the part of you that is basically in the now, in the present. And that's where your senses come in. It's drawing in information all the time. Your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your nose, and your feelings are passing back what they're gathering back into the unconscious mind to process. And all it is data. So your eyes do nothing other than to see. They can't change necessarily what they see, because that has to be done in the brain. So they are purely data sensors and passing that information back. And that's important to understand. So that when people say stats like you're only living in the present moment 5% of the time, you can start to understand why, when actually what you're doing is you're just living from moment to moment to moment. So in my 5-step model, the first very important, most important part of it is the belief system that we work under. Now, that belief system has been developed from arguably the womb, but most definitely from the moment you were born, where your senses started to draw things in firsthand and pass them back to the unconscious mind that then decides, is this safe or not? And it is very black and white in its processing, because that's its primary objective. It's the thing that really does work for us to keep us safe. And it starts collating this data and it stores it. Memory banks, if you like. And what it does is every time it comes across something new, it assesses it and then it files it according to the outcome. Was this good or not? Is this good or not? And eventually it gets enough data that it can then start to create responses in us. So from a young child, a baby in arms, if when you cried your mum picked you up, or your dad, you learnt that crying was a good way to get attention. Or if the reverse was true, and this is not to pass blame anywhere, it's just what it is, your parents didn't come to you straight away when you cried as a baby, you may have learnt very early on that actually crying doesn't help. Being quiet and placid might be. It's a bit of an example, that's all, of how your brain starts to learn. And it stores this information so that the next time you come across it, it knows what to do. So you never have to relearn a door is a door. You've learnt that. And as you've got older, you've learnt the many variants of doors that you can come across, from the very quaint fairy doors that go nowhere for the garden, to your front door. So your brain is learning the whole time. And the things that it learns consistently, regularly, it will be storing to form what will become the model of your world. Now, interestingly, for every experience you have, you will also be having some sort of emotion, because the brain needs to let our body know what it needs to do, depending on what's going on. And the emotions are a biochemical, electrical stimulus to the body to tell all the relevant organs what they've got to do, if this is a threat situation or it's okay, just remain calm. The emotional content is actually where I'm fascinated by and I like to focus on, because for me, when we are up to the age of 7, maybe 8, this is how we operate. It's either good fun or it's not. Have you ever had a child who just suddenly has a bit of a meltdown over something small, but something that they've picked up as being not good for them? They didn't get that ice cream, or, they wanted to run around and you've got them in the shopping trolley. It's just their responses to their world. The trouble is, if it's a consistent reinforcement, it becomes part of their model of the world. So that in the future, when they don't get their own way, they may have a different response, but there will be a response. Who knows exactly how it manifests? It will manifest as per each individual. But for me, the emotions are our sat-nav. They are big clues as to whether we're moving in the right direction or not. So I believe we should be paying more attention to them. If they are not the emotions we want to experience, and we experience them a lot, there's a message there, a message for us to understand what's going on. For example, if you find yourself irritated all the time, or if you're a bit like me, getting frustrated, then there's a message there. Something about your earlier programming, your belief system, is not working for you. It's time to change. And to be honest, it can work in opposite. If you are constantly happy and over the top happy, I'm talking about, or over the top lovely to everybody, just check in. Is that coming from a place of love for you and those around you, or is it learnt behaviour? Thoughts. Oh my word. Big amount of stuff going on at the moment in the media and wherever you go about mental health. Now, I want to make it clear that mental health for me is a spectrum from just a little bit of mental health that's not quite working for us to the extremes that need medical interventions, because some are chemical imbalances and all the other things that can go on. I don't work at this end. No. I work down the end where people have had some mental imbalance going on through stress, anxiety, some depressions, but usually it's not been lifelong. It's usually a few years at most, perhaps. I have worked with people for longer, but there is a fine line. So I have to make that call depending on who I'm speaking to. So when I talk mental health, I'm talking this end of the spectrum. Okay, the people who are experiencing stress, anxiety, are becoming low in the way they're working, feeling depressed to the point where they may just be starting some medication. With these people, they've learned something about themselves in the belief section that is driving some sort of emotional response which they're denying, or is becoming overwhelming. Their emotions are part of the problem. And one of the things that's really important for you to understand is that after about 8, our prefrontal cortex starts to develop. And it's in this period that a lot of faulty thinking, for want of a better word, starts to occur between the ages of 8 and 25, because now we're beginning to want to fit in. We do not want to be out of the in crowd, whoever they may be, even if that means us going against what we like or who we really are. Because the risk of not being part of the in crowd is to be potentially bullied, criticised, judged, and a whole host of other different things that we could be exposing ourselves to, which, to all intents and purposes for our brain, is threatening, and we do not want that. For people who don't want to fit into the normal crowd, they want to be different, but in doing so, they are fitting into a norm of another kind. So they're still desired and wanted by a different sort of person. So we're all doing exactly the same. And the reason for that is because as a human race, our very survival was based on the fact that we were in a community of some sort. What happens is we can sometimes develop thinking that's not good for us, constantly second guessing ourselves, berating ourselves when we're not doing it the way we believe we should. And let's be honest, if that's the case, it's probably not to your standards anyway, it's to somebody else's. Maybe, you're finding yourself waking up in the middle of the night because you haven't done something. It's your emotional content, your beliefs about who you are and how you operate in the world that are triggering your thoughts, which are telling you there's a problem. And the problem with this problem is that we keep it in our head. Oh my word. The amount of people who say it goes round and round in their head, or it crops up regularly every night, or, whatever. That is the problem. We don't get it out. We don't analyze it and look at it. And that's why you'll hear a lot of people talk about writing things down. So important. Getting out of your head and onto paper. And once you've done that, looking at it again later, perhaps. Because actually, at the end of the day, if you don't, it will be just like that toy train on the circular track, going round and round and round until you address it. So thoughts can come in many different guises. And if they're faulty thinking, i.e. they're not supporting you and who you are, then there's a chance that that could be your clue. And it was for me, actually. I didn't do emotions for a long time for various reasons, but the thoughts, yes, absolutely. Very self-critical, very high standards and expectations of myself that were way too high and I couldn't achieve. It's a really important area to have a look at. So what happens to us then? So over the first 25 years of life, we've been learning who we are, how we're getting on, what we're doing. And what happens is that we end up in a place where some things are habitual, telling ourselves that we could do that better. What are you doing? Goodness sake, don't be stupid. We have a constant internal chatter going on, which quite frankly is not very helpful for you or those around you either, because it will drive your behaviours outwardly. So we start to develop behaviours to cope, to manage ourselves. When we get busy, we make lists, we plan, we schedule things in so that we end up being overwhelmed because we take too much on. We develop habits of perfectionism to make sure that we avoid being criticised or judged or bullied. And these things are also a good way of us finding out what we're doing and whether it's helpful or not. So be mindful of the behaviours that you have and the habits that you practice, because they will be big clues as to what you're doing. And the interesting thing is that these will have been developed and you won't even necessarily be aware that they're there until you start checking yourself. What did I do there? What was my input? Because the next one that where you'll find what's going on for you is your experiences. Oh my word. This is where most people start to realise there's a problem. Is in the outside world, your external world. It could be that you've had one of those big life-changing events that have caused you to start to think about how you're living your life, what you're doing, where you're going. Or it could just be that somebody said something to you. For me, the question was, are you happy? A really simple, seemingly innocuous statement, but it came at a time when I wasn't, but I was in denial. And a lot of people are. I'm not alone. A lot of people do not accept things are not great until a mirror is shining back at them. I'm asking you to shine your own mirror on your own life experiences. Are you finding that you're working long hours and you don't have time for your family? Is there a problem in your relationship you're ignoring because actually it's just too difficult to go there? And you don't know how, let's be honest, because you know it could trigger all sorts of things. Maybe it's money that's causing you problem. Maybe it's how you perform at work. It doesn't matter. Shine a light on those areas that you're unhappy with to understand what you're doing to contribute to it. Now, this may seem harsh, particularly if you're having problems with your boss. And I've been in that position a few times. But you have to go within to see what you're doing to contribute to it that would make the difference. Because trust me, if you can get to the root of whatever it is in that connection with that person and you clear it up, you'll be amazed at how that response will be different. And you've had to do nothing else other than clear up the very base of that, the belief you have about your world or people like them. So this empowerment model is your way of being empowered. It usually starts with your external world. That's where most people will notice something is going on that's not right for them. I'm asking you, if that's where you are, is to notice your behavior or habits. Equally, it may be your behavior or habits that highlight to you that you've got a problem. For example, you've suddenly started drinking too much, or you're smoking more than you would normally do. Suddenly you're over-exercising at the gym. It's understanding those changes in behavior that will help you understand what's potentially going on for you. And then look at what's your thinking around that. What made you start to want to over-exercise? What were the thoughts that were going through your head? Critical ones, judgmental ones, ones that suggest that you're not good enough as you are. I don't know. But ask yourself what questions were going on. And maybe it wasn't questions. Maybe it's emotions. How were you feeling that caused that? And both the thoughts and the emotions are really good places to find out what's going on for you and what may be working and what is not. Getting to the real core, the belief, is a challenging one, and something that people like myself can help you with by asking the questions. But I'm going to give you a really simple question to ask yourself until you get to the highest thing and cannot get any further. What's the highest intent of that for me? Let me repeat that for you. When you've got an emotion or a thought or a behavior going on, ask yourself, what's the highest intent of that for me? There's no judgment in it, because everything is happening because it's trying to keep you safe. So it's got a positive intent. You've just got to understand what it is and keep going until you get to something very big like love, healing, something more universal. But that will help you to understand what it's trying to do for you. And then you can possibly give yourself a bit of a talking to change it. So what I've shown you there is how to spot what's going on for you. And it could be in any of these areas, but more likely the first three, with the emotions and beliefs driving it through for you because they're so powerful. I hope that's been useful for you. And if you want to take this further, maybe you want to work with me, then I would fully recommend you book your free, no obligation call with me using this link, or just email me, that's fine. But it's 30 minutes where we can explore what's going on for you in those areas. I would love the opportunity to have that discussion with you. Alternatively, you might not be ready. You need to digest this. You might need to watch it again. I don't know. Do some more of your own research. But you can find some really useful tools and techniques in my book, Midlife is Not a Crisis, Rediscover Your Drive and Reclaim Your Happiness. That's on Amazon now. Just there is a link there to finding it, but you can just key that in and it will come up. You'll know it's mine. But it's got something for every area. Or check out my webpage and sign up for my newsletter. One of the things I like to do is keep in touch with people who are like-minded, people who are interested in the stuff that I'm talking about and doing. Things like how to make a decision. What's the difference between goals and intentions and why that can be powerful? So many different things that I can discuss and talk about forever. So I would love the opportunity to work with you, but I appreciate not everybody will do that. Here is a reminder, therefore, of these links that you can take a note of and then get in touch if you want. And if not, that's okay too. I hope this has been useful for you to help you understand what you can, you can find out for yourself about what's working for you and what's not. How you can take back control to become the master of your own life. Let me be honest with you, this is not a quick fix, sort it out overnight type touch. I can't commit to that any more than you can because you don't know what it is. What I'm saying to you is it's a really useful tool for you to start to make those changes. So it's a bit like a big cruise liner wanting to turn around. You do it bit by bit, one step at a time. And before you know it, you're on the much better course, heading in the direction that you want to do. My name is Kim Searle. I really appreciate you listening, and I hope to be able to talk to some of you soon. Take care. Thank you.